Welcome back to another episode of Just Talking with Joe Burdick. This next episode, I'm really excited to talk about it. It's my friend Snjezana. Did I say that right?
You got it.
So today I'm sitting down with Snjezana, an artist and kids book author whose work is deeply personal, patriotic, and rooted in a powerful life story that began in Croatia and led her to America. Her journey, her art, and her identity are all intertwined, and I'm excited to unpack all of it. Snjezana, um,
Hi.
thank you for coming onto my podcast. I know this is your first one, so
It
I'll be
is.
gentle. I'll go easy on you.
Thank you. Thank you. Not too gentle though.
Okay. Well, you're an artist, and anybody that knows me knows I love art. I wanted to be an artist, but I have this problem that I don't have a creative bone in my body. So I'm not a very good artist, but I love art. And I wanted to talk to you about yours because your art is absolutely amazing. First of all, I want Cleveland to know you, but on
Thank
a
you.
broader spectrum, I want people to get to know you. Anybody that follows my podcast, I want them to see what you do, appreciate what you do, and buy what you do. So, thanks for coming on my podcast.
No, it's an absolute pleasure, and I don't know. I'm gonna have to back you up and maybe disagree with you a little bit. I've seen some of your art and how creative you really are, and yeah, we're gonna have to fight about that. I completely disagree.
Well, we agree to disagree, so that's good. We're
Perfect.
starting off great.
I was gonna say we're starting off really well.
So you were born in Croatia.
I was, yes. I was actually born before it was Croatia. It was Yugoslavia at that time, and it was under communistic control. It was under the Tito regime. And so I'm testing maybe somebody's history back here, but yeah, it was very communistic, and I have quite a few memories of what communism looks like, and it really shaped my perception in so many different ways, especially after I was able to escape Yugoslavia and come here to the United States and experience things that I had never seen before.
So paint us a picture of that. That is a pun. But
Yeah.
what was life like growing up there? I know you didn't grow up there. You left early.
I did. I
Um,
did.
but what was it like
I
especially those that have never been to a communist country?
Yeah, you don't you don't really realize a lot of things, especially when you're young. And my family was very loving. So a lot of that was shielded, right? So my grandparents and my uncle, my aunt shielded me from a lot of that. But we didn't have electricity. There was no running water. You wondered how you were going to eat from day to day, and you couldn't say anything. I remember our neighbors disappearing. They said the wrong thing, and you wake up the one morning and you have brand new neighbors.
Hmm.
It was difficult, not knowing what's going to happen next, if you're going to be alive. And yes, I was young. I My grandparents actually got me out of the country when I was 8, going on 9. But there was a scene that I remember where they had one of the neighbors in our village that we grew up. They were protesting, right? So protesting means like you're saying anything against the government. You're making leaflets and flyers, and you want freedom. And they brought us into the little town square, and they demonstrated what that looks like. Um, and uh, yeah, that still sits heavily with me, even though your eyes were shielded, your grandparents shield your eyes, but and you see the aftermath of all of that. And so um, being blessed enough to come here, really, it's amazing. It's amazing, the freedoms that we have. It's amazing, the opportunities that we have. And I think those experiences, I don't even think, I know those experiences shaped my later life, the reason why I do art, the expressiveness, why I support veterans, why I even went into nursing, right? And particularly worked with the vets at the VA. All of that kind of primed me to appreciate things a little bit differently, being brought up in that kind of an environment.
Right. Well, Croatia,
Yeah.
it's very cultural there from what I looked up. And the little town that you lived in, I looked that up too, and I saw
Sydney.
that it's very rural, right?
Yes.
So yeah, I looked it up. When were you introduced to art? I know that Croatia has a lot of culture there and a lot of
It
art and music
does.
and things like that.
It does. I was introduced to art really with my grandmother. So um, my grandmother was always very artistic, and back then, that wasn't advocated, like drawing and expressing yourself like that's just something you didn't do. That's not what you do in communism, right?
Mm,
You don't have thoughts, you don't express yourself, right? Because expression and thoughts and creating something beautiful would take you out of what the lane that you needed to stay in, right? And because you weren't allowed to dream, you shouldn't have dreams, right? And I remember, like, I don't know how they managed, my grandparents managed to get their hands on colored pencils and stuff, but and paper, because that was like a commodity. You just,
mhm.
when you're worried about what you're going to eat, paper and colored pencils is just something that um, you know you couldn't go to the store and purchase. But my grandmother managed to go ahead, and my grandparents managed to go ahead and get that, and they nurtured that side. And I think that was so healthy as a child, because you have all this chaos going on, you have all this uncertainty going on, and so then what do? How do you allow a child to dream, and how do you allow a child to imagine, right? So my grandfather literally made wooden blocks so we could play with them. And then my grandmother, with the paper, she started teaching me how to draw. And it was just simple things like roses and flowers and just different objects. And so that creativity was spawned very young, in that imagination, in that environment. And, it just goes to show that no matter what kind of environment we're in, as long as we have the capacity to dream and to express that in whatever kind of small way, it keeps hope alive.
Mhm. So
Yeah.
what made them want to come to America?
Oh gosh, we're going deep.
I
Actually,
know.
I know. You're like, oh, we're gonna go deep. We have a lot to cover.
We're
No,
unpacking this
you
journey.
you are. Oh my goodness, I love it. So, what made them want to come to America? So they didn't. I'm gonna backtrack a little bit. My mom, my real dad, my biological dad. When my mom was married to my biological dad, he was very involved in politics. Unfortunately, she didn't really understand how um, involved he was. And shortly after marriage, along came me, and his involvement in politics and the government and all the other shenanigans, I'm going to use that word, made her remove herself from him, right? So she ended up leaving him with the help of my grandparents. And she actually escaped from Yugoslavia to France at that time. I was not even a year old. she had a brother that lived in France. And so she took me to France, with, where her brother was. And I think it was a hope to start a new life and everything. And as a few months passed by, my uncle in France, her brother, ended up introducing her to my dad, the man who ended up raising me, stepfather, but by all intents and purposes, my father, right? He ended up raising me. And he was also Croatian, but he was living here in the United States. And so him and my mom started exchanging letters back and forth, back and forth. He ended up going to France, falling madly in love with her, married her right there, right? I mean, talking about a story right there. So they ended up getting married. But they needed my real father to go ahead and sign paperwork for them to bring me to America. So from that point on, they went from France, to both of them, to Croatia, now Croatia, back then Yugoslavia. And my dad said, nope, absolutely not. You're not going to take my daughter anywhere. And so at that point in time, my mom had to make a choice, right? What do I do? Do I go ahead and come to the United States, start this new life with my new husband? Or do I stay back here and however long it's going to take? And then, her and I go. And the decision at that time was to go ahead and come here with her new husband, my dad, and start the life, and then leave me behind, right? To be raised by my grandparents, my aunt, and my uncle. Which, at the time you don't, you're a child, right? So now I'm about a year and a half at this point when all of this happens. So I'm growing up without my mother. I'm growing up with pictures of my mom, right? At that, And in the meantime, mom she came here, she started working, and she was slowly sending money to my grandparents to kind of accumulate to see about getting paperwork, because my dad wasn't having any part of it. But he was so involved in politics that he actually kept his distance from me, because back there, you need to understand, when you're that involved in politics, right? It's like something you see in movies. When you're that involved in politics, they don't only come after you, they come after your whole family. And I only have one memory of my father, my real father. And I remember I was very little, and this tall, just, gorgeous gentleman, older gentleman, coming and talking to my grandmother, and my grandmother looking really, really upset. And he had this bunny with him, and he looked at me and he smiled, and I don't know what words they exchanged, and he left. And so that was my first and my last time seeing him. But, fast forward, years later, he accidentally died, right? And so he intentionally stayed away from me, I believe, for that purpose. Even though he didn't want me to leave the country, he also knew what that meant. The deeper you got in with, that type of a mess, that's what I'm going to call it, that type of a mess, you can't, there's no getting out. You just don't go in and you get out. It just isn't. That's not what happens. And so the money that was being sent. No, go ahead. What were you going to say, sweetheart?
No, I was going to say, was he high up in politics?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, he was. I don't think at that time my mom knew really how high up he was. And but it was pretty evident after the fact. So what ended up happening was, he was still alive. He ended up passing away after I had left the country. But what ended up happening is the money that my mom was sending to my grandparents, they were stacking it and holding on. And my grandparents found this lawyer who subsequently forged paperwork
A lawyer.
Yeah. I mean, what? All the lawyers out there, close your ears. Yeah. He ended up forging paperwork to get me out of the country, and nobody knew that that was happening with the exception of my grandparents and, my mom, my dad here, and my uncle and my aunt. I remember being woken up like it's some ungodly hours. Must have been 2-3 o'clock in the morning. I know it was early enough, but dark enough where you couldn't see anything. And my grandmother said, "Get up, we're leaving. We're going to take you to see your mom, say goodbye to everybody." And I remember just like really not knowing what was going on. I said goodbye to my cousins. I have 2 cousins, Ivana and Perica. Ivana is like a month younger than me, and Peter, he's a year younger than us. And, we grew up, we're playing, because at that point I was 8, almost going on 9. And like, hey, just say goodbye to your, entire life, which your family, and we're going. And I remember them sneaking me through. I have like bits and pieces of memories going like through a graveyard, getting on a train, and then being on this airplane, right? First time being on this airplane, and like looking through the window and seeing all of these lights. Like you need to understand, I had never seen lights before. We didn't have electricity, and there's all these they looked like little stars. And I'm like, oh my gosh, I remember it was such a profound moment, looking and seeing all these lights. And I was like, where am I at? Like, this is like a fairy tale, we're coming into New York. And I remember seeing that as a child, and I just couldn't believe it. I was like, I remember I started crying. I'm going to start crying now. Like, you're not, I remember seeing that. And it was so profound. Like that, like, what is this? Where am I at? I mean, am I dreaming? Is this a fairy tale? Is this like the things that, people talk about? Is this really happening? And so that was like my first memory of seeing the United States, seeing New York, seeing all these little lights on the ground that looked like the heavens, right? And just being completely awed at the beauty of it.
So what was the culture shock like? Because I'm guessing you probably couldn't speak English or much.
I knew hi, bye, and telephone. That was the extent of the English vocabulary. It was, I don't even know how to express it in words, right? Toilet paper. Seriously, toilet paper. I had never seen toilet paper before. Like, you need to understand just something simple like toilet paper. And lights that, like, you have lights. You don't have to study by candlelight. Like, there's running water. You can take a hot shower. Like, all of that was completely brand new. Everything, stores, cars, like, it was overwhelming. It was overwhelming, and it was scary. It was scary to be somewhere, and yeah, I'm being reunited with my mom, right? But I had left my entire family behind, and my grandparents were like my second parents. They essentially raised me during those 7 years. And so you go from one shock to another, right? Right. And you leave everything and everyone behind, no matter how cruel that world was, right? You were comfortable in that cruelty, right? Because you didn't know any different. And so I think that's something to be said about even human nature. When you don't know any different, you can be comfortable even in the most uncomfortable places.
Right.
And even going to school for the first time, I remember like being taken to a bus stop and a bus picking you up, and then you get on this bus, and I remember crying for the first time. I was like crying because you're sitting on this bus and all these kids are just coming at you and they're talking to you, right? a completely different language you don't understand, and they're touching you, right? So they're touching you, and they're being cute. It's not that it was anything bad. You're completely lost. You're completely lost. And I remember crying, and I'm like, telephone, telephone, telephone. That's all I could say. It was like, telephone. I'm like, it was all of it was just, it was a shock. It was a shock to the system. But, I think as human beings, we have this innate ability to not only overcome things, but to acclimate, right? And especially as a child, I think it's easier to acclimate and to learn things because, you're still like a sponge, right? You haven't completely been shaped mentally, right? Mentally, there's still a lot of opportunity to kind of shape your thinking and give you new experiences, and it was amazing. It's my life has been so many different blessings from where I came to the things that I experienced, and learning English. It's like, what? Where am I at? What am I doing? What kind of? This is just insane. This is a fairy tale, right?
Right.
That's what it felt like. It felt like a fairy tale. Not only to be reunited with my mom, to see my mom, like, hey, it's my mom. Like, oh, that's who you are,
Right.
And also bittersweet because my grandparents were, they approved him, I believe at that time, for like a 6-month visa. And so it was also bittersweet. They stayed here 6 months, and then, they had to go back. And so then it felt like, oh, here's another loss, right? So it was okay, so they can't stay. And so that was really difficult. Because when they left, my dad was still alive. I could not go back, and I didn't go back for a long time because of how deeply embedded he was within the political regime over there.
And what year was that you came here?
Oh my gosh, you can't ask me that. That's gonna date me. No, it was in the 80s.
Okay. All right.
You never ask a woman how old she is.
I didn't ask how old you are. I would never make that mistake.
No. I'm just
and when your grandparents went back, did they have any issues since there was the forged paperwork and everything?
No, they didn't have any issues because the paperwork that was forged wasn't theirs. It was mine. Right.
Right. I know. They didn't, your biological father didn't.
No, he didn't find out till after the fact. And then, once that happened, what's he going to do? He can't, you can't do anything. I'm already here. And then because my mom was already by that point in time a citizen of the United States, I became a naturalized citizen, right? So through her. So because of the naturalization process, there was nothing that he could do.
Right. And what city did your mom live in?
What do you mean, when she was there or here?
No, here. Yeah, here.
Cleveland.
Oh, okay. All right.
Yeah. Yeah.
So there's some famous Croatians. I just read a book recently about one, Nikola Tesla. And
Tesla?
He fascinates me. But there was a few other people that I found out they have of Croatian descent. But Roger Maris, baseball player. Joe Sakic, hockey player. I'm probably pronouncing his name wrong.
No, you're good.
Stipe Miocic. I love Stipe
Miocic, yeah.
And I'll probably butcher this one. What? Goran Ivanisevic.
Ivanisevic, yes.
Tennis player. So what does it mean to you to see Croatians succeed on a global stage? Just out of curiosity.
Oh, that's such an interesting question. I love it. I think there's pride, right? So, of course, you're proud to see your, I don't want to say mother country because that sounds so Russian, doesn't it? My mother country, but there's pride. Yeah, the motherland. Go back to the we say old country. We go back to the old country. There's pride, especially when you understand how a lot of these players, these success stories, come from really humble beginnings, right? And the challenges, right? The obstacles that had to be overcome for a lot of these folks to be where they are, right? So very proud, very honored to be part of that culture as well. And very, very, I feel humbled. I feel humbled to be where I am, to have had the opportunities, that I have had, right? Because not everybody has been so lucky, right?
Well, speaking of the culture, do you think your art, that the art that you make today, carries both cultures in it?
Yeah, I feel it's a blend of not only the cultures, but the life experiences, right? That I've personally had from, being born into communism and having that suppression, right? And seeing the things that I did, without getting into further details, because there's some stuff. I was even kidnapped as a child. Really, I was kidnapped as a child.
I don't even have this in my list of things to talk about here.
No, I was kidnapped as a child, and I was actually stabbed during that episode. And so, I mean, at what we think, well, looking back on it, was like child trafficking. But my art is a combination of all those things. My experiences, my nursing career, the drive that I've always wanted to help people, right? In some kind of way, shape, or form. Even when I first kind of contemplate, what am I going to be when I grow up? Which I'm still asking myself that same question. I'm like, what am I going to be when I grow up? I don't have the I don't have the full answer yet. But I initially started going to Virginia Marty School of Fashion and Art because I wanted to do interior decorating and design. And my parents, being the wonderful European parents, that like, no, you can't do that. You will be poor all your life. You can't do art. What are you doing? You can't do art. So I'm like, okay, I can't do art, right? But it always stayed with me, because no matter what I did, even in nursing, I always kept that. Or I would do it, I would do artistic things at home, right? Or I would be painting or drawing or something, and just like gifting it, like, oh, look, I made this or I made that, and like always dipping and dabbling in different things.
I love it. So when you were a kid,
yeah.
So your first.
What do you mean when I was a kid? I'm still a kid.
All right, you're still a kid. But yes. What was your first memory you have of making art as a kid?
Oh, I don't want to tell you. It's so cruel. So, I guess, I don't know if it's necessary. It was artistic. I just didn't realize like what I was doing was like maybe not like good. So there was all these butterflies, and I remember my cousins and myself were in this field with all these butterflies, and they were so beautiful. And so what we were doing is we were catching these butterflies, and then we were pressing them. Why am I even telling you this? We were pressing them because they were so beautiful, to make like decorations from them, right? So you know how you go to like museums or like the botanical gardens, and they have like the displays of butterflies and stuff like that. That's what we were doing. We found a way that we could like take them and like put like press them, and then make like put them on our walls to have pretty things on our walls and colorful stuff, right? Because our floors were dirt floors, no plumbing, nothing. There was, the best way I could describe it, I'm not even kidding you. Like, have you ever seen one of those black and white movies and then all of a sudden it turns into color?
Yeah, sure.
Life
Wizard of
was
Oz.
like that. Yeah, exactly. Life was like the black and white. There was no color allowed. It was, even though the world was in color, right? Your environment, you have your grass and, it's very rural where I came from. Not so much now because, it's expanded and grown throughout the years, but you weren't allowed to have color. That's just something you didn't do. You didn't have color on your walls. You weren't allowed to do that. And so I think some parts out of desperation, this is what you did as a child. Like, you tried to color your world, right? And so I remember even sitting down with my grandmother, and when she introduced me to color pencils and then the paper, she was showing me how to make these flowers, just doing little circles. And so that's the other fond memory I have, is sitting with my grandmother. And I still have that. Like, I still have that paper with our drawings together years later on. I have that, and I look over it from time to time as it's like now like falling apart. But, sitting with candles and her teaching me how to draw.
Right. Was she artistic too?
She was so incredible and artistic. And my grandfather, he was artistic, but in a very different way. He could tell you the most amazing stories that you felt like you were breathing, you were living the stories. And he was such an incredible storyteller that, we just ate it up. We thrived off of his stories. And so if you want to consider that artistic, I want to say yes, absolutely. Yeah. Because, when somebody has the power to tell stories, in such a manner that it allows you to visualize it, to dream about it. Again, it's feeding your imagination. It's feeding your hope, because, let me tell you, a child without hope or an adult without hope, it's a hard place to be,
Mm-hmm. Yep. So when did you realize that art wasn't just something that you liked, but it was something that you needed?
Oh, I think for me personally, the most impactful point, like, I had always done art. I had always drawn. I knew it made me feel better.
Mm-hmm.
But I didn't really realize that it had the potential to make others feel better, different.
Right.
And so my first experience with that was, I had done an art piece. It was just something really simple. It was a photograph, and I was drawing above, like, how artists, they start in a certain media and then they kind of progress. And I remember I was drawing on photographic paper. Like, I would take a picture and then I would print it and then I would do layers above it. That's how I initially started out. And I loved this one piece, and I had a girlfriend that was going through a little bit of a rough time. And I thought, well, this will make her feel better, right? So I framed it up for her and I gave it to her. And months had passed by, and, sometimes you really don't realize what somebody's going through till after the fact, right? You don't necessarily understand or comprehend the power of a simple smile or a simple gesture. And, months later, she comes to me, she says, I really want to thank you. And I'm like, for what? Right. And she's like, that piece that you gave me, that art piece. And I was like, you like it? She's like, no, it really helped me. Like, it helped me get through my bad days. And I'm like, huh? Like, it's a picture. She's like, no, when I would have a bad day, I would sit there and I would sit in front of it and I would get lost in it. And it really helped me calm down. And I said, well, okay. I'm like, oh, okay, And so that was my first experience that I kind of had like oh, interesting moment. my next experience where it really hit home is I had an opportunity to have some of my art featured in a hospital, and it was in different sections of the hospital. It was in the cancer infusion section. It was in the pelvic therapy rehab sections, and I ended up receiving these like different little letters and notes from patients, and I'm gonna probably start crying again, but you know, I started reading these, and they touched me so profoundly, because it was things like, hey, you know, I got through my chemo by looking at your art. Like, it made my infusions easier. I got through my treatment. I was learning how to walk again, you know, like going through the parallel bars, looking at your butterfly, because I was really focused in nature and the beauty of nature, and, you know, just the serenity and calmness. And so I received like all these wonderful things, and I, you know, it's like, wow, well, maybe this isn't just healing for me. Maybe this can be healing for others. Maybe it can elicit different emotions or remind people of, you know, a certain time in their life, or elicit a certain smell, or take them back to something that was really precious to them and meaningful. And so that was really, I think, the pivotal moment for me, where I realized that there's not only beauty in art, there's healing, there's the ability to give people hope and beauty and imagination, and the ability to maybe see the world a little bit different, a little bit brighter. Let them dream a little bit. Give them even that like one little thing of hope that maybe tomorrow is going to be a better day. Yeah. So that's where it hit home for me.
Well, I like that. So
Heavy
was there
stuff, Joe. Heavy stuff. Come on.
did you have a specific person that made you feel like this could actually be your path? I mean, you know, was there somebody encouraging you and working with you that made you, you know, really see what you're doing is good and therapeutic, and, you know, it could be something, you know, to make you want to especially now after all these years. Only a
Right.
few years, because, you're not old at all. We're all kids.
That's right. Kids at heart. Yeah,
Yeah.
you have to nurture your inner child. You do.
Mhm.
I think it's so important to have that part of you and not to lose that, because that's the part that helps you laugh and helps you play and helps you see the world in a different way, no matter how
Mhm.
much crap. And can I swear? Can I swear?
Yeah, swear.
No,
Say
no.
it.
No matter how much shit you've been through in life, and what it's handed you, that inner child, that if you feed that inner child and you allow that inner child to live and breathe, it can really make a big difference as you move forward. For me, you know, yes, family has always been really important and dear, and my mom has always been, I think, one of my biggest cheerleaders. But the people who have appreciated my art or purchased it, or the letters or the notes or the simple, wow, you know, really this made me feel good. That's been my motivation. That's been my forum to continue to say, oh, what's next? You know, even like my art manager challenging me, like, which created the New Eve series, which stemmed off of one piece. I was going through a really bad time in my life, and I don't want to say angry, but I was angry. And so I did this one piece, which nobody has seen yet, right, except for like my mom, myself, and my art manager. Were waiting for the appropriate time to unveil her. But she's the piece that stemmed this New Eve series. And my art manager like challenged me and said, okay, I want you to tap into that. I want you to tap into what it is to be feminine, what it is to be restricted, right? To be bound. And what does that look like? And so, you know, that's when the new Eve series recently just came about. But, you know, those are the inspirations. Life is the inspiration, the shit that you go through. You know, you can take it and you can embrace it, or you can just be miserable. I choose to express it just a little bit differently. I mean, I've always said, hey, if you're going to hand me a pile of shit on a plate, at least allow me to choose my topping. So I'm choosing my topping. You know what I mean? I'm going to choose my toppings. You're like, what do I do with you?
No. So when you want to sit down to create,
yeah,
let's talk about that for a second. So a day,
yeah.
so in the studio, how, you know, do you have any rituals? Do you know, how do you actually start? And, you know, music,
Yeah, you know, I take a bath.
silence, chaos.
Yeah, no,
bath.
I take a bath and I wait for a full moon and I dance naked around the pool.
Artists do the craziest things.
No, I'm just teasing. I don't force it. Meaning I don't say, oh, I have this piece, right? I have this piece that was commissioned. I have to work on it. I don't do that. I don't do that to myself. I think when you start forcing creativity, it just, I don't know. To me, it doesn't flow. I don't know how to explain it or verbalize it. Creativity is something that comes from a place of peace, of love, of vulnerability, of expression. And in order for those things to open up, you have to be in the right energy, in the right mind frame. You have to be in the mood for it. right. So as far as a ritual, no, not necessarily a ritual per se, but you have to be self-aware enough to know that even if it is something that's commissioned, even if it is something with a deadline, you can't push it. And I rather, and I give myself the luxury of telling, you know, my clients that do want a commission piece, like, hey, this is about the range that it's going to take, right? Because I give myself that that time to create, to feel the piece. And as crazy as it sounds, sometimes I don't know what the piece is gonna look like. I'll literally sleep on it. I will, maybe that's a ritual. You know, I'll go to bed thinking about it, and I have a pen and a piece of paper next to, you know, a little notebook next to my bed, and I'll wake up with the craziest ideas, and I'm like, oh, that'll be so good, you know, and I'll write it down, and I'll go back to sleep, and then, you know, I'll start visualizing, and I'm like, oh, if I did this, if I did that, what does that look like? And then I'll just sit down and you know, you're fueled by that, right? You're fueled by, how do I do this differently? How do I create something that this person has in their mind, that this is what they want to feel when they look at this piece, and how do I bring that to life for them, right?
Is that how you usually get your inspiration? Sleeping on it? Or
I do. I sleep on it, or I listen to the person, and, you know, is there a story? What's your story behind this piece? So to me, the why is really important. I was always the why child, right? I was that annoying child, and now I'm the annoying adult you know, of why. I can relate to that. You know, why? Why does it work like that? What do you mean? Why can't we do it this way? You know, all those different things. But the inspiration also comes from the person that's requesting that work to be created. So my question is like, okay, well, what are we trying to do? What are you trying to do? What are you trying to feel? What's the purpose of this piece? Is it a gift? Is it something that reminds you of a memory as a child? Is it something like for your parents? Is it like, what is it that you're feeling that's motivating you to do this? Because if I understand where it's coming from, then I can connect to it. And if I can connect to it, I can express it.
Right. That makes sense.
Does that make crazy sense?
That makes perfect sense.
Okay.
So how do you know when you're finished?
I don't.
When you finish a piece, you don't know.
I don't. I'll do my thing, and I'll sit back and I'll look at it, and I'm like, I think you might be done. And I'll walk away from it, maybe for a day, maybe for 2 days, and I'll come back to it, and I'll sit down and I'll look at it again. Maybe I'll have a dream. I'll say, oh, that would really look cool if you did this, or if you use resin, or if you use this new product, or maybe some diamond dust, right? Oh, how about some color changing inks? Oh, that would look really cool if it changed, like if it glowed in the dark, right? Those are the kind of things. And then I'll go back to it, and maybe I'll do something else with it. And if my heart says it's done, I will flip that baby over, and I will go ahead and give it a name, right? So the name is part of that completion process. I don't start off with the name in my head. I do the work, and then the name comes, and then I'll go ahead and I'll, sign it in the back. And I like to leave like all my art pieces with something inspirational in the back. Always a different saying that fits the piece, that expresses something about hope, dreams, courage, whatever that might be. It's embedded in the back of the piece. And that's how the piece ends up getting completed. It ends up getting signed with a personal message of hope in the back, dated. And most recently, I've been using a thumbprint signature too. So I'll sign it, but I'll put a thumbprint on it too, which I'm like, oh, why not? Don't ask me why I'm doing that. I'm just, why not? Sometimes I have no reason to be like, oh, that's kind of cool. I'm gonna put my thumbprint on it.
Well, I mean, there was what's his name from Pennsylvania? Why can't I'm brain fog here. Who was it? That artist from Pennsylvania? Warhol. He did some
Andrew
crazy
Warhol.
things.
Yeah, he did, right?
He peed on one of his paintings. He's like, now it's done.
Well, I mean, hey,
and the paint ran down, and you could tell that's what he did. So artists
we're interesting. We're interesting.
That's a good word for it.
Yeah, no, that's a better word than weird. We're interesting. Yes.
Eccentric.
So
what's the most frustrating part of your creative process?
Frustrating part of my creative
Is there a frustrating part of it? When you get I don't know, creative blocks or doubt?
I don't know if I would necessarily call it frustrating. But maybe you have like a happy little oops.
my favorite painter, happy little accident.
That's right. Maybe you have a happy little oops, or you kind of envision something going a certain way, but it comes out another way completely. However, if you also learn to embrace that, it's kind of like, oh, I didn't expect it to go that way, but that kind of, okay, that'll work, and I think I was telling you one day, we were talking, like, nobody knows it's an oops, right?
Right.
Like, only you know it's an oops. And like, how hard are we on ourselves that we're taking something that's supposed to be beautiful and something creative, and we're judging ourselves on a creative process that we didn't anticipate to necessarily go this way, but it went that way anyways. And so I try to remember that when I have my happy moments, that like, hey, listen, maybe it was meant to just turn out that way. Right. Maybe that's what the piece was intended to do. If I'm working with energy and I'm working with things that, you know, especially if I'm trying a new process or something new that I haven't attempted before, who am I to say that that's how it has to turn out? Why does it have to turn out that way? So I don't necessarily know if I would consider it frustrating, as more of just being aware that it's a creative process and it's going to flow differently. And to kind of just expect the unexpected and embrace the oh shit, oops.
So we haven't even talked about what kind of medium do you use? Do you prefer?
I don't, you know, I love working on brushed metal, but recently I've really enjoyed doing the Zodiac series. I did like a lion dragon, like 2 lion dragons on wood, and wood burning. I you know how fun wood is, right? But you know, burning on wood and watching it transform and then adding the different colors, which, you know, sometimes you really don't know how that wood is going to absorb that color. Depends on, you know, am I using acrylics, or am I using permanent inks, or, you know, am I using glow in the dark inks? So some of that it's a surprise to me. You know, like the one piece I'm currently working on, it's for a client. It's like a mountain scene, and I use like dust, like diamond dust, and color changing inks and glow in the dark inks. So I layered all that on, and I don't know how it's going to look yet because I haven't exposed it to UV light to see the transformation. So, you know, it's also going to be a fun process for me. It's like I get a little surprise too, which I love some of that. But to answer your question, I love working on brushed metal because of the texture and the ability to do a lot with it, and also the quality, meaning the art that I'm creating is meant to be generational. Like the brushed metal, you really have to be trying to hurt that sucker you know, so it's intended to be passed down. Like, you know, some of the portraits that I'm doing, I just recently did a portrait of a child, and the intention behind that portrait was for her to have something when she grows up, to see herself as a child and then pass it along. And so I love working on brushed metal for that exact reason, because of, you know, the ability to have it be generational and to, you know, create something that's going to last far after I'm gone, right? And be passed down. The wood is just such an interesting media to work on. I really enjoy working on it. The more I'm doing it, the more I'm using the wood burning and carving and different things. And I typically seal that with a resin coat, again, for longevity, to have that art be handed down. So those are my 2 favorite media. I have worked on like different papers, canvas, and acrylics. All pose like a different type of a challenge. I don't know. I don't think there's any kind of like right and wrong. It's just, I would say at this point in time, those are my favorites right now.
Have you, I forget the name of what it's called, but the work with the wood and using electricity and water. Have you seen that? And how the electricity makes the wood burn. It's really, really cool.
I haven't seen that. Oh, you're giving me something new to explore.
Oh my God. I'll look it up. I'll say it's really cool. They use electricity and they wet the wood and some electrodes or whatever. And it burns towards each other, and it's got this really cool look. But this guy that I saw on a podcast was doing it, and he almost killed himself doing it. So he must not have been paying attention, but it's really super cool.
Listen, I've already started this house on fire. I mean, seriously. So I don't know. I don't know if that's safe. Is that safe for me, Joe? Joe, is that safe for me?
You know, maybe.
Yeah, you're like,
keep a fire extinguisher near you, but it's probably.
I do. I recently purchased one. I don't know. Can I come over to your studio and practice? You're like, no, no,
Oh my God.
no.
Yeah. I don't have a studio. I have a dust-filled shop. That's yeah. I don't create art.
Yeah,
I haven't picked up I love
what are
painting.
you doing?
I
Yeah.
love doing the wet on wet, the whole Bob Ross thing.
I've seen some of your Bob Ross paintings, and
But that's the
they're
thing. When I said
marvelous.
I don't have a creative bone, I follow the video. Now, when I wasn't growing up in Croatia with an artistic grandmother. I was sitting in front of a TV of Bob Ross, and I'm like, this
Bob
guy
Ross
is
is a man.
awesome. He's
I
awesome.
know.
But so
Let's plant a happy little tree.
I can't sit down and say, I want to paint something and do it. I could do it to the video, but no. But I haven't picked up brushes in a couple of years, and I really want to. So, but
you know, what's wrong with that? What's wrong with starting off following a video? There's nothing wrong with that. You're still expressing yourself. You're not going to duplicate it. Even if you try, you're not going to duplicate it.
I just wish there was like a Bob Ross certified instructor in the area, or even in, somewhere around here where I could go and take the classes. And I think I need instruction, and the videos are good, but yeah, I don't know. These cold winter days make me want to pick up the brushes.
Why don't you just pick up the brushes? I mean, this is what I'm going to tell you. Like, if you want to create. Mm-hmm. Just pick up the brush and see what happens. That's the beautiful thing. There's no right or wrong behind creating something, from what you feel, right? So just pick it up. You don't need somebody, maybe, as far as like, chemical compositions or what goes with what, and who, I mean, some of the most interesting artwork that I've created has been not knowing what the hell I was doing. I was like, oh, this might work, Then I set the house on fire. But that's neither here nor there.
I dragged out a painting. I was going to have it sitting behind me for the whole art conversation. It's something I was doing. I was using palette knives and just trying to build up color.
Like with oils?
No, I think those were acrylic paints. But I'm looking at it as I'm talking to. It looks like toxic waste. It's over there. It looks like toxic waste in an ocean. It just looks so stupid. I look at that and I'm like,
you can't say
what
that
the hell is that?
Us. Like, now you got to show us.
I'll add it to the video when I edit it, so you can see how bad this. But it's this big ass painting, and then I look at it. I'm like, that looks like trash in the water, but. I don't know.
No, you're not. You know what? You're not allowed to do that. I verboten you. I verboten you to talk like that.
All right.
No. There's really. It takes courage to go ahead and even do something like that. So don't criticize your child within. You're creating something. You're expressing it. No matter how it turns out, it's still a part of you and your expression. And sometimes the things that we necessarily like, it doesn't move us to the depths. Somebody else will see it and they're like, oh, that reminds me of, when I started my house on fire, whatever it might be. But, my point is, there's something special when we create from our inner child, from our depths, from that vulnerable place, that peaceful place, that place where you allow yourself to be unjudged, to be the child, right? And I think that's so beautiful. And just pick up a damn brush and fucking paint, will you?
I guess I'll try.
Hey,
this conversation's not about me though. It's about you.
It is.
So we need to get back to this. Yes.
Wait a minute. Are we allowed to talk whatever I want to? No.
Yes,
kidding.
You are. So I have a follow-up I wanted to ask.
Yes, go for it, babe.
So, and has your process changed at all after any I don't know, major life events or setbacks or anything, do you ever just sit down and just change the process, create, I'm sure we all need probably that yin and yang in our lives to
Yeah.
mix things up a little bit, I guess.
Yeah, no, I agree. Has the process changed? I don't know if necessarily the process has changed, as more of, you see the evolution maybe a little bit different, where I was like, I don't know, 4 years ago, if you told me I would create the new Eve series, I'm like, no, I can never.
Don't talk too much about the Eve series yet. We're getting to that.
Like, no, like, but my point is, like, if you were telling me 4 years ago, 5 years ago, that I would create something like that, I'm like, you're crazy. I do nature. I do pretty shit. Right?
Butterflies. I rip butterflies apart and make.
I do pretty shit. I do nature. That's what I do. I don't do some, that. So yeah, sure. Life experiences, you go through shit, right? And then it's like, well, how do I express this shit? And then how do I express this shit that I haven't ever expressed, that I've kept bottled up because it was safe, right? It's safe. It's safe not to put yourself out there. It's safe to say, hey, everything's great. I've had a perfect life. It's been fantastic. What are you talking about? That's safe. And it's hard to put yourself out there, because as humans, I think we also want to feel accepted. We want to feel, we don't want to be judged. We want to belong. And how do we belong? We belong by, not challenging the status quo, by fitting in, by saying the right things, by looking a certain way, by doing the right things, right? And so I think a lot of that has changed for me. It's evolving still. And, that's why I even joke with you. I was like, I don't know what I want to be when I grow up. I don't know what I want to be when I grow up. I don't know what my art wants to be when I grow up. But it's definitely an evolutionary process. And I think, even like with you, for example, right? When like you initially, if you can, think about like when you initially started creating your flags, right? Was it what it is now? Like, no, right? Right. And why did that change? Right? Because you changed, because you evolved, because you also, are visualizing things differently, because you're also challenging yourself, right? Like, oh, how do I make this like bigger, badder, more profound, more heartfelt? Like, how do I express who I am within this piece, right? Within this flag, and what I believe in, and the freedom and the sacrifices that, I gave this country, right? And so, yeah, it's evolved, not necessarily the change of the process, but the evolution of it. Yeah, sure, I would say that.
Well, I know for me too, I think with my flags changing is I raised my standards. I didn't want to look like everybody else. I wanted it to be, I wanted it to have a certain look, and I've obtained that. So speaking,
Mr. Local Badass.
So speaking of patriotic, that's one of my favorite words. I'm patriotic. I know you are.
Dude, that makes me cry. Come on.
You do. First of all, I fell in love with your the first thing I ever saw that you did at that charity thing. Yeah, I think it was a cityscape.
In Cleveland, the Cleveland one that I did for the charity, for Fisher House, right?
Yep, next to my flag, and I was like, holy crap, I want to buy this thing. But when I saw that you do patriotic stuff, I'm like, now this is cool. So where does that come from?
Pull up. Where does that come?
Your patriotism, or your love of that?
It comes from being here, from seeing what communism looks like, seeing what oppression looks like, seeing what that that when hope is removed, when what happens to people, and then you come here and it's like you have all these wonderful opportunities, and you have this freedom, and you have the freedom to go ahead and say what you want and write what you want, and just be alive. You have the freedom to be, right? And that is so profound. And the only reason we have the freedom to be is because of men and women who have put their lives on the line, who come back, after seeing all this atrocious stuff, right? And try to acclimate into the society, right? And like, how do you not support that? How do you not be thankful for that? And it was one of the reasons that I wanted to work for the VA. And I spent many years working with veterans and going and seeing some of their challenges. And then, as my art evolved, donating to charities that support veteran causes, because I mean, what a privilege to be alive in this country and have the things that we do because of the people that made it possible.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
How do you not be thankful for that?
Sadly, there are people that take that for granted, but I think they need.
I think they need country for about a week or two.
Yep, I've been to those third world countries.
Yeah.
It made me really appreciate what we have, and I have a story. I'm not going to tell it now, but I'll tell you sometime about. Well, I mean, because it's about your story, I guess. But all
our stories are important, right? And your story is very connected to.
But it's not necessarily my story. It's a story about oppression, and made me realize, we're not oppressed in this country, and I've seen it, and I saw kids diving in sewage infested rivers just for coins so they could eat. Yeah. And it made me think there's nobody in this country that has ever had to do that for a meal. And there's probably nobody in this country that ever would do that for a meal. Mm-hmm. They'd rather starve. And these kids in this country were doing that. And so I think more people need to visit some pretty bad places so they can appreciate what we have. And I appreciate your patriotism. I was going to ask, as an immigrant, what does patriotism mean to you personally? But I think you just pretty much told me that.
Yeah. I mean, it's.
So working at the VA with those vets, is that what made you really appreciate, all of this and make you want to create that kind of art?
I think it added to it. There was initial appreciation when you come from one environment and to this, right? But then when I started working with the veterans, I was mostly in the emergency department, and then later on care in the community, where we'd outsource veteran care, right? When the VA couldn't provide it. And just being a part of the culture, right? Because it is a culture, right? Being part of the culture and hearing these stories and seeing the humility, right? The humility behind how much was sacrificed and how humble it was. Like, you just did it because it needed to be, like, it's amazing. It's amazing to hear the stories. Or like, I remember taking care of, he was a World War II veteran, God bless his heart, and just the stories he had to share. I mean, it really opens up your eyes. It really opens up your eyes. And there was no, oh, poor me, or da-da-da. It was this, I don't want to say a sense of duty, but there was just this something inside that, like, hey, this is what we do. This is what we do to protect our own, to make sure that we continue to be in the greatest country in the world, to make sure that our children can grow up, to make sure we have the opportunities, we have the freedoms, and hearing the stories and seeing how humble our veterans are and all the shit that they went through, and how a lot of the times, even our government, which, failed them in certain things, or, resources, or whatever that might be. And it just, it gives you a whole different perspective. It gives you a whole different perspective, not only for the veteran, but for the family members of the veterans. Right. I mean, even if you take a look at the history, right? Like, what, World War II, they figured out, like, when they were sending the dogs into battle with the, into combat, they figured out, oh yeah, we have to, when the dogs come back, we have to go ahead and reprogram them, right? Recondition them. But they were doing that to the dogs, but no, they weren't figuring it out with the soldiers, right? And so, yep. Yeah, right. It really was such a tremendous pleasure to have those experiences, and just, I don't know, I can't say enough about it. I met some remarkable men and women, their family members, and it really makes you appreciate what you have in a different light, because you're here, right? We're here because of sacrifices. It didn't come easily. It wasn't handed to us. People forget that. Yep. You're sitting in your warm fucking house, not because of, something that you're entitled to.
Right.
So, yeah.
Right. Yeah. And while we're sitting in our warm houses, there's people in the Navy right now on an aircraft carrier in the middle of the ocean, wishing they were sitting in their house.
Yeah, and, missing their family members, serving a cause, right, to make sure that we are okay tomorrow.
Yeah, and people don't even think about those people out there missing their families, or they'll say, well, that's what they signed up for, or whatever, which...
Well, sure, I can be an asshole. You're like, yeah, that's an asshole. Like, I'm sorry, that's an asshole. That's what they signed up for. Okay.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
that's
exactly what that is.
You can look at it that way, or you could say, oh, thank God they signed up for that. Thank God. Mm-hmm. Thank God that there are people out there that will sign up for something like that, not knowing they're going to come back. And if they come back, are they going to be okay? Are they going to have PTSD? Are they going to have, like, what are they going to be exposed to? Right? Are they going to be exposed to chemicals? You don't know. Like, you should be saying, oh, thank God that we have men and women like that are willing to do that so we can be here.
Yep.
Sometimes it's a matter of perspective, right? And not being, I say, don't be an asshole all your life.
Right. So when you do your patriotic art, have you ever been misunderstood by, your meaning or your theme?
It hasn't happened yet.
Good.
And I say yet because there's always an opportunity for something. But I welcome it. I mean, and if it does happen, I would really be interested to see the different perspective, right? Because once again, we look at things a certain way. How I see things might be completely different than you see them, right? Maybe you're seeing them through the lens of, former military, right? Veteran, you're seeing it through a different lens. And so to you, it's going to be a lot different than, to me, a civilian with my background, yes, but still a civilian. Your experience is going to be totally different. So no, it hasn't happened yet. But if it does, I hope I'm humble enough to embrace it and, and listen and understand, right? And hey, why are you seeing it that way? That wasn't my intention,
Right.
And maybe even alter, right? Or adjust how I'm expressing myself. or even a different way. I shouldn't say alter, but maybe it provides a different way of expressing myself. And I think that's important too, because it's important to have, I don't want to say criticism, because to me, I don't think that's criticism. I think it's just a difference in opinion, a difference in viewpoint, and definitely difference in perception, because, to me, my perception is my reality. And to you, your perception is your reality. And that's why eyewitnesses never see the same thing.
Right.
Right.
So when you make one of these patriotic pieces, what do you hope, especially veterans, or what do you hope people will see in these pieces? Because I can tell you what I saw when I saw your, the boots and the flag and the dog tag. That meant a lot. So I saw a battle. I saw, a flag that got beat up that saw a lot, and I really that's the beautiful thing about art too. It's supposed to be thought provoking,
right?
and So
Yeah.
I mean, what do you hope people see in that kind of art?
I know which piece you're talking about. And that originally that's a print from a custom piece that I did for a Marine veteran, who has 3 Purple Hearts and is probably one of the most humble human beings that I've ever personally met. But I hope people see the sacrifice. They see that freedom really isn't free, that it comes at a cost. And that sometimes that cost isn't something that we see. Sometimes it's the cost that our veterans and our military men and women carry internally. That's a cost. That's a big cost.
Yeah, you're gonna make me cry.
Yeah. But that's the motivation, that to also appreciate the blessings that we have because of that cost. And it's just like you said, you don't really realize what you have till you lose it, right? And I hope, right, we never are in a position where we lose that, right? Because I know what that looks like.
Right.
But I hope when people look at, like the piece that we're talking about with the military boots and the tattered flag sitting on top of a mountain, right? They see that, hey, freedom isn't free. It came at a price, whether that was what you see or what you don't see in the internal and external battles that our men and women constantly have day in and day out to try to make it work, to try to make it okay, right? Not only with themselves, but with their families, right? And sometimes this is a lifelong battle. It's not, no, sometimes this is a lifelong battle. And, to appreciate them in a more meaningful way, even with small gestures, even with like, hey, thank you for allowing me to have the freedom that I do now because of your sacrifice. And that's so profound. And I think we miss that. I think we miss that in our day-to-day, just like with a lot of things, even appreciating each other. How hard it is to say, hey, I really appreciate you. Hey, thank you for being my husband. Thank you for all that you do. I see how hard you work, right? They're simple words, right? They're simple words, but they can be so profound. And so I hope when people look at these pieces that it moves them in just a different way to look through a different lens at the life that they have and the life that they could potentially have, right? And how different it might look, really.
Yep. Well, I always say too that we ask, last thing about the veterans is we ask, ordinary men and women to do extraordinary things for our
Of course you
country.
do.
And yeah, I was just at the VA last weekend
Yeah.
and I loved every minute of it. So I do it every year. So, okay.
Yeah, I know, heavy stuff. Oh my
I
gosh.
know.
I love it.
Patriot
Though. I love it. I
patriotism
love it.
though, it is heavy and it's,
Of
it's
course
not
it is.
easy and I love this country. So, but how has your style changed at all over the last 5, 10 years?
I think as far as style, I think I've been more exploratory,
Mhm.
doing things a little bit. I don't want to say edgy because that's not really a good way to describe it. But I've explored more with different inks, different styles, creating maybe a different style that I didn't think about before, coming up with new styles or new layering methods. Um, so in that aspect, yeah, it's changed a bit. It's evolved, right? I think with a lot of artists, we, yourself included, right? You challenge yourself, right? You challenge yourself on, hey, like your motivation. I want to make the flags better. Why? Because you're so proud of, you're proud. You want to express that being a patriot and being proud of your country and sacrifices, right, through what you're doing. So where you started out, right, has evolved because of your self motivation. And kind of the same thing with me. It's like, okay, well, it's evolving because I want to challenge myself to do different stuff and not just like be stuck and just, oh, I'm going to do this, right? Like it's not a factory assembly job, and like,
Right.
yeah, it's about creating, it's about expressing, it's about moving people, it's about making people realize the different things that they have or don't have, or memories to elicit elicit a different lens in their life, right?
Right.
Yeah. Come on, keep it coming.
All right. Hey, I'm in this,
Somebody's
man.
gonna watch this and be like, "Oh, these two are wackadoodles," and I'm like, "Yeah."
No, no,
I love it.
but all right. So, what's the biggest
Mm.
creative risk you've ever taken?
Creative. I wouldn't consider anything really. I don't. I don't have a good answer for you.
That's
I don't
okay.
think I've. I don't think I've had a creative risk. Um.
Well, you did almost burn your house down, so that was a big risk.
Well, that's a physically creative risk. Oh, it was bad. It was bad. There was like black smoke coming everywhere.
Jesus.
And I'm screaming. I'm like, get me salt, because somebody didn't have a fire extinguisher. So yeah, hey, it needed to be remodeled anyway.
There you go. Is there a medium that you haven't used yet that you want to try?
Um yeah, I always see these different artists doing these like big, huge murals and stuff like that. I think eventually I would like to maybe do a collaborative piece. I know a few artists down in Miami that do these like big murals on like side of buildings or barns or,
Mm,
things like that. But I would love to collaborate on a piece and do like a huge mural and like combine creativity, because the artists that I see doing these murals, their style is completely different. And so, here's me, and I was like, oh, that's really cool, but I could make that glow in the dark, right? So, I'm like, oh, if I did an overlay on his style, like I could really make this like completely different. It would still look
mhm.
the same, but I could make that shit glow, right? So it's kind of like that's the mindset right now that I'm seeing, especially with some of these like Miami artists that are doing these huge pieces, right? Side of buildings or,
Mhm.
barns, different kind of structures that I'm kind of getting more fascinated with. And I think it's because it's on a different scale, because most of
Mhm.
my works have been, I don't want to say fairly small, but I think I enjoy working on smaller pieces because of the complexity of it. Somebody can take a look at my art piece and they go, oh, you know what, hey, how is this so much money? And I'm like, well, it's because it took me 50 hours to do it, right?
Right.
Because it's so detailed and it's so intricate that it took layer upon layer and hour upon hour, and like adding in inks over a top, letting it dry, adding in inks, and the creative process, right? And so sometimes price points aren't necessarily reflective of the size of a piece, right? And I sometimes I found that a lot of people don't understand that till you sit down and you're explaining. I'm like, well, wait a minute now. So here's the factors I can control. Here's the factors I can't control. And here's the process, right? And so that's pretty interesting.
I like it. I've always wanted to try. I've wanted to try dabble with screen printing.
Oh, that sounds like fun.
I mean, it could be. I saw that, Warhol again with
Warhol.
Warhol. He did so many cool things. It's probably dated, but I've always wanted to try it. I just
Maybe you
couldn't.
could.
I couldn't
Maybe you
make
could.
my own screens. I couldn't do it.
Well, how do
And
you
then I
know
get
you can't do
frustrated and
it?
I
You
say,
haven't
"Fuck
even tried.
this, I'm done."
Well, you don't know. You don't know till you try, and then maybe
I
if
did
you
try, and I
listen,
couldn't
but
do it.
maybe you can come up with something like completely different. Like, oh, if I did this with this, it would be like a whole new type of art. You don't know.
Again, I don't have any creativity.
You're a shenanigan nonsense.
Yeah, I know. So when did art start feeling like a business, not just a passion?
It still is not feeling like a business.
No.
No.
All right. How about this? The first
I need it to be a business, right? Because in
Yeah.
order for me to, funny story, I'll tell you a funny story. In order for me to buy the material, and create, right, I need to be able to physically purchase the stuff, right? And so, at one point in time earlier, I was giving stuff away, like even if I was selling it, I was like giving it away because I couldn't price it, right? I couldn't price it. So, maybe something was like, say, $200 a person. Oh, I only have 100. Okay, here you go. It's going to a good home. Yay. But that mentality isn't always healthy when it comes to budgets, because then I can't buy materials, right? And I pride myself, and I think I heard that in some of the things that you were saying. I pride myself in getting quality materials. I want my art to last. I want it to be generational. That's what I'm doing. And so my girlfriend finally got a hold of me, and she shook me a little bit, right? There's nothing like a healthy shake. She shook me a little bit. She's like, what the fuck are you doing? And I was like, yeah, come on. So she developed this formula for me on how to price my stuff. And I was like, oh, well, this takes the guesswork out of it, right? And so it was like very simple: the cost of the material, how many hours it took me, right, at a flat hourly rate, and then a small markup. Most artists be like, oh, this is $5,000. Says who? I want people to purchase my art. So, my markup is 20%, 20 to 25%. Because to me, that's, that allows me to go ahead and do the things that I love to do and buy the material, right? And also, get great homes for my art. And so that also then led me to doing prints, right? And so I have like a site now where it allows people to purchase prints, because not everybody can, let's be honest, not everybody can afford an original,
Mm-hmm.
But you should be able to have something in your home that you love waking up to and love seeing, and it's going to make you feel good, right? And so I think how goes back to childhood days, our atmosphere and what we have in our atmosphere, whether that's loving people or how whatever's motivating you, having a clean atmosphere, having a vibrant atmosphere, your atmosphere is going to set the tone, right, for your day. So if you're waking up to certain things and it's not good and it's not healthy, guess what? The rest of your day is probably going to be shit too, right? I mean, So yeah, as far as a business, it still doesn't feel like a business. And I'm not sure I ever truly wanted to feel like a business, as opposed to being having the ability to create more and having people um, enjoy the art in a bigger capacity. And I don't know if that's necessarily, you would necessarily call that business or sharing my art with the world. So I want to have the capacity to share my art with the world, where I have the means to purchase more things and do more custom pieces, because that's really what, creating something for myself because I believe somebody's going to enjoy it is a lot different than creating something that's so personal, that's coming from somebody's mind or somebody's wishes. I mean, that's really where I thrive, and I get a lot of inspiration, and I love creating special pieces for people. Um, it brings me so much joy, and it's like, oh yeah, like it's like a little kid. Like I get up in the morning when I'm like these two pieces that I'm currently creating. I get up in the morning, I'm like, oh, what am I gonna do with them? Am I almost done? Like, oh, this is gonna be so cool. I can't wait for them to see it. So that's what I love doing.
Well, you should do more of that.
I'm
So
trying to.
so we are lucky. I know you were in New York City recently,
I was,
but
yes.
we are so lucky in living in Cleveland, the Cleveland area.
Yeah.
Our art community is amazing. We have some really amazing artists here, and I'm trying to figure out why you don't have your own little place at the 78th Street Gallery. Give me a
you know,
good reason why you don't
I,
have a place at the 78th Street Gallery, because
you
that
know what?
place, have you been
Yeah.
there?
You know what? Recently I was there.
Isn't
I
it
had a
amazing?
I had a photo shoot there, and I didn't know that the photographer was in 78th Street, like the gallery. And I walked in, and I was like, oh, this is so fantastic, right? So I was a little
Hmm.
late to the photo. I was a little late to the photo shoot, but yeah, it was fantastic. There you go. You gave me a good idea and
So
inspiration. I don't know why. I
why
don't
don't
know
you
why.
have, you need one. That's where Third Friday Art, I haven't been there in probably 2 years.
Yeah.
It is so amazing in that place. I mean, I have to go back, but there's so many amazing artists, but you should be in there also. You
Yeah,
know,
I'll have to check it out and see how I get in there. That would be
it can't be that expensive, but it's great exposure. But
yeah. Sounds like it.
the art scene in Cleveland and the Tremont area and all that
Mhm.
stuff, I mean, people need to be seeing your stuff everywhere. So,
Thank you.
since
Yeah,
you're the creative, I mean, there's so many things I wish I could do. I'm sure for you that would be nothing, but for me, it's impossible. I
no,
have it up
nothing is
here, but
impossible. No, no, no. You know what? There's nothing. You know what impossible is? Impossible just means it hasn't been done yet. That's it.
yeah,
Nothing's impossible. It
done
just
by
hasn't
me
been
anyway.
I want to sing Bob Ross on you.
Oh my God.
Ghost.
I wish he was still alive. I love that guy.
Right, I'm gonna send him your way tonight so you can paint some happy little trees in your head.
Yep. Yep. That's right.
Oh
Uh,
my goodness.
so what's one thing you wish the art world did better?
What's one thing? Hmm. Oh wow, that's a big question. Um, I would. I don't know how they would do it better, but I've seen, like, I've seen these fantastic, spectacular, wonderful artists. Their art is amazing, and they never get recognized. And they can do art all of their life and not be recognized, right? And just I've seen some just amazing art pieces. I'm like, oh my gosh, this is spectacular. And it is so subjective, right? It is
Mhm.
subjective. And you know, I didn't really realize the significance of it. But, you know, like my art manager kind of put it into perspective. She's like, you know, I had a Manhattan gallery showing, and she's like, you need to realize something. You know, we've just been working together now for like 4 months, and you're already in a Manhattan art gallery showing. Do you know how many artists, right? And here's my ignorance, right? Completely ignorant. I don't know the art world. I know my world. I know why I love doing art, right? I know I love creating, but I don't know the art world, and I'm still discovering it. But, you know, it really put my ignorance into perspective. She's like, do you really realize how many artists hope and dream and work all their life to try to get into a Manhattan art gallery showing and never do? And their art is fantastic. And I was like, oh, well, fuck, that just humbled me. Right? Right? So I was like, oh, yeah, you know? And so I wish there was a way for the art community to see more artists in a different light, and for them to have, you know, exposure as well. But it's hard, you know, it's hard. The art, you know, it's difficult, and sometimes, you know, just like with other things, it's not about how good you are. Sometimes it's about luck. Sometimes it's about who you know being at the right place at the right time to get noticed, to be showcased.
Right.
But there's it's such an experience, I should say. It's such an experience. It's so it's amazing. It's amazing to be like in a Manhattan studio, or to be featured in Times Square. Like your art's like, oh shit, that's me. That's, you know what I mean? It's such an amazing experience to like, I wish more people could have that experience, because I don't want to say it validates you, but it just, it feeds your, you know, I'm keep talking about that inner child. It feeds that inner child. It feeds that hope. It feeds that enthusiasm. It feeds you as a creative soul to go ahead and continue to create. And I think with a lot of artists, if you really talk to a lot of like artists that, you know, maybe didn't have formal education, that's like, hey, I just do this, right? Like, hey, I just do this. Nobody taught me how to do it. I just do it.
I don't like those people.
I'm sorry.
Because I can't do it.
You know, but if you talk to a lot of us, we want, the purpose of art is to share it, right? Like, I want to share this with the world. I have something to share. I want to change how people think and look and see life. This is what I want to do. I want to contribute to society. I want to leave this world a little bit better than when I entered it, right? And so, you know, that feeling, that acknowledgement, that ability to have others see you is just, it's so profoundly humbling. I wish more artists could have those experiences.
So we've talked about your art now for an hour and 38 minutes, and we haven't seen it. We haven't seen anything.
No.
So I want to hear from the artist about some of your stuff. Okay.
All right. Stuff away.
Tell me everything about each one of these.
Uh-oh.
So this is the canopy, I'm assuming, from an F-14.
It is. You're so good at this.
Well, that's a Navy airplane, and I worked on those and F-18s. So tell me about this, because I freaking love it.
Do you love that? So that was during one of the air shows, and as a matter of fact, like, I was going through some of my old images, because a lot of my artwork starts with photographs, right, that I initially take, right? And that can be some of the inspiration where a lot of my art starts. But I was recently going through some of my old photos, and I discovered this one, and I'm like, oh my God, I completely forgot that I had, you know, had this experience. And how the light just caught, how the light just ended up catching it. And then, of course, you do a little bit of Photoshop to brighten the colors so it can be visually like profound. But it made me feel that connection of, coming to this country and seeing all those bright colors, and what does it represent? Freedom, the beauty, the vibrance of life. And I'm like, oh yeah, this has to go up. This has to be available for somebody to love it and see it as much as I do.
And see, I look at that photo,
Yeah. Tell
and
me.
so what I see, that airplane, the F-14, and in the movie Top Gun, the original Top Gun,
Yes,
that
yes.
inspired me to join the Navy.
Yeah,
I
really.
loved the F-14 Tomcat, and when I got a chance to work on it, uh, it was such a thrill for me because I'm like, this is life full circle moment. It inspired me to join
Mm.
the Navy. It changed my whole life, and now I'm working on one. And so
Wow.
I think that inspired me. That changed my life. Well, that airplane is also retired. So this print should be in an aviation museum somewhere because this is so friggin' cool and just
I didn't even
shows.
realize it was like historic. I didn't even real,
Yeah.
there's just things you don't know, but wow. Okay.
Yeah, so I when I saw this, I was like, yeah, I freaking love it." So, all right,
Oh,
so now tell
good.
me, we
So,
talked
so
about
something that moved you. See, this is
it
this is
moved
wonderful.
me.
And
Yes.
look at how different. This is exactly what I'm talking about. That, if somebody's at 1 hour and 41 minutes and they're
And
still
40
with
seconds.
us, right?
Yep.
Through this. This is just how profound art is, right? So for me, it was a completely different experience. For me, it was a completely different motivation on why this, right? And for
Right.
you, you're like, oh, it reminded me of why. It reminded me of Top Gun. It reminded me of why I joined. It reminded me of all these things, and this is history for me, right? So
Mhm.
two completely different experiences, and I bet you somebody else would have their own completely different experience. So
Especially somebody that, maybe flew in one or whatever.
exactly. Was a
But for me,
combat
it's like,
pilot, right?
yeah, this is art,
Wow.
it's beauty. So we talked about this one.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
I see boots that look like they are battle worn.
Yeah.
I see dog tags, and if they're on the ground, that means they're not on the person.
Yeah.
So that represents to me sacrifice.
Mhm.
And then you can't see it, but I'm using my pointer on my thing to point to these different
Yes.
things. And then the flag being tattered like that, it tells me, that's been through hell.
Yeah.
So, and it's
Yeah.
actually why I make my flags to look the way they do, because I want them to
Mhm.
look like they've been through
The
hell, because
wavy. Mhm.
our veterans have, our country has. And so I look at all this stuff and I look at that sky, and it makes me feel hope,
Yeah.
even though I can see all of this sacrifice right up front and
Mhm.
in the background, there's hope for a future.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
that's what I see when I look at your piece. Now, what did that Marine see when he saw this?
He started crying. He started crying because this is a
Is
print.
that a Purple Heart I see in the bottom there too? Is
Oh,
that a
yeah,
medal?
you got that a little bit, yeah.
Okay.
Um, so, his was personalized. This is, like, before I started doing the layers, but his was personalized, so I had put, his name on the boots, right? So his
Mhm.
last name was on the boots, and then, and it became more personalized, but yeah, he was very overwhelmed. And like I said, three Purple Hearts, probably one of the most humble human beings that I have ever met. Had When I heard his story, without going into it, when I heard his story, I literally cried of, like, how much he went through. Um, and still is such a good human being, right? And so this piece, his business partner commissioned me to create this piece for his birthday.
Hmm.
And in finding out his story, I talked to him and I found out his story, and it moved me to create um, this exact piece where you have that sky that's breaking open, right? So there's that hope, you have like the typical Americana scene, right? With the mountains and the freedom and nature. And his piece actually had I did his mountains to glow in the dark. And the flag would change colors. So also it was glow in the dark. And then all the yellow that you see in the mountains and in the landscape would go from yellow to red, right? Yellow to red. So it was a really immersive piece. It was a breathing piece. I call these pieces that transform breathing pieces because I encourage them also to be put in light. Like unlike a lot of art out there, they're like, oh, don't put it in the light, it'll erode the colors and stuff. My pieces are intended, especially if I'm using different inks, color changing inks, they're intended to go into the light, right? I want you to have them in the light somewhere throughout the day. But it was supposed to speak to his sacrifice and the people that he lost,
I think you captured it.
Yeah. So, yeah, it's a really special piece for me. Not only because of my background, but also his story, right? And similar stories a lot of our veterans have.
Yeah. I think if a veteran sees this, they're going to love it. They're going to want it. All right. So tell me about her.
That's my dream series. That's one of my girls from the dream series. So it's not a person in particular, and it's everybody. It's every female, every feminine soul out there who dares to dream, right? So I created this. It's called the Dream Series, right? And I actually did a big mural of one of her sisters in the house because I wanted to practice murals, but completely different story. I wanted to create a series that allows for dreams, and that in between time between sleep, between dream and awake, that special veil, right? The moment where we're at our freest, the moment where we're allowed to dream, to see things differently, to imagine. And so this is where that series was born, from that childlike state where no matter where you're at, what you're doing, obstacles, no matter how many times you were told no, you can't do something, or no, that's not good enough. In that moment, you can be as vibrant and dream as much as you want and paint your world however you want.
And that's paint.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's on acrylic.
It's amazing.
Thank you.
And now, did you go to school to learn this, or are you self-taught?
No, I'm self-taught. Yeah, I know you hate me.
So tell me about
my
this
little royal guy.
That
So
blue is so
do you
blue.
love that?
I love it.
Yeah. So I have his brother is sitting in a local shop here, and I actually embedded real peacock feathers. So this guy was actually an image from Morocco. I had gone to the Morocco Zoo, and they have these beautiful peacocks. And I ended up, I'm like, oh, this would be such a cool piece, right? With the how vibrant peacocks are, and also the symbolism, right? So when you think about a peacock, you think about royalty and prosperity and protection and all those wonderful things. And so, like I said, his brother piece is at one of our local shops here. Um, and I picked up peacock feathers. I put him on canvas and embedded real peacock feathers into
Mm.
the artwork. So that way, whoever ends up purchasing that original is going to also have like a little piece of Morocco with them
Mm.
too, from an
Wow.
actual peacock from Morocco.
Unrelated to the subject, but
Yeah.
my son and I stayed at a friend of mine. He has a farm in Indiana,
Mm,
and we stayed
yeah.
there. Went to Chicago earlier in the year, and when we woke up the next morning, there were two peacocks pecking at the
Mm.
door, and my son opened the door, and these two peacocks just walked right into the house.
Aren't
And
they amazing?
they're beautiful animals. Yeah.
You know what? I hear they're like uh excellent, like they're better than a dog. Like nobody can come in and they'll start like sound like an
Yeah.
alarm if somebody's coming into they're like start screeching and stuff. I've never experienced it, but I've read some things about them that make
Well,
them like excellent for like guardians.
it was hilarious, all this wildlife on this guy's farm, and,
That's amazing
city
though.
boy from Cleveland, Ohio, I'm not used to that. I only see those in the
Like,
zoo. So,
yeah.
all right, tell me about this.
Oh.
I love this.
Do you like that one? So that the original is sitting with, I don't know if you might have.
Is that paint?
So this one was on brush metal, and it was multiple layers. And this original one is actually sitting in Michigan with a doctor. She used to work for the VA, and she had commissioned me to create a winter scene for her. And so the original image was from Colorado. And so, yeah, this one was so fun to create. It's a huge piece. I mean, it's huge.
Mm.
The original is a huge piece, and it took hours and hours to do, but it was such a fun project, especially like you're seeing the print of this one, but the
Mm.
original one, and I believe I have some of that on like my Instagram with the original one and where it's at right now. Dr. Watts. So it's sitting with her in Michigan, but the original one is on brush metal. So when the light hits it, it picks up the maroons differently. And it
Mhm.
also, the whites, if you can imagine the whites as silver. So it's very reflective. And so at that time, like now I look at it, you're going to laugh at me, but now I look at it and I'm like, yeah, I wasn't doing like color changing inks at that time. And see, this is the evolution. And I wasn't doing like glow in the dark. So now I'm looking at it now that you pulled it up and I'm like reminiscing, like, oh, that would have really looked cool if I, you know what I mean, to color changing inks and things like that. So
And
yeah,
like you said, the piece is never fully done.
yeah. So, if I had to do another one, and that's I think the interesting thing about doing these pieces, like I could try and duplicate this. I never could. Even if I did my best to duplicate an original, I can't because maybe the conditions are different. Maybe my mood is different. Maybe how
Right.
I mix the colors is going to be, how this goes. The colors
Sure.
are going to mix differently. The humidity is different. Hey, welcome to the Cleveland, Cleveland
Right.
weather, right? So there's so many different factors that even if I wanted to duplicate this exact piece, I never could. I could come close, but I
Right.
never could make another one. So really the uniques are uniques. There's only one in the world when we're talking about the uniques. But yeah, just a fun winter scene that she's like, I want something, and that was her district. I want something that's winter, trees, little like yet soft, but embraces winter and nature. And my house it has like maroon accents. And I'm like, well, send me a picture of the maroon, right? Because like, hey, like I want to see what your maroon looks like. And so I matched up the maroon and out came this.
I love it. I love
Yeah.
black and white paintings too.
Yeah,
So
they're fun.
very
They're
cool.
so much fun.
All right. Tell me about this.
Oh, my little Colorado lily. It was just a moment, a quiet moment where, I remember I was like working I was working for the VA out in Colorado, Grand Junction, Colorado. It was one of those weeks where it was like a 70-hour work week. And it was the weekend, and I had my my camera with me, and it was like this quiet morning, and I was sitting there outside. It was kind of cold, and I was having my coffee, and I like looked over, and like it hit me. I'm like, oh, this is really pretty. Like, this is not pretty. This is beautiful. Like, how do I capture something that people see every single day, right? That they walk by it every single day, might not even look twice at it. Like, how do I capture this in a different way? And so here we are.
Very cool. Okay, we talked about her earlier.
Oh, my love and vulnerability. She's actually behind me. So yeah.
Tell me about this one.
So in these pieces, in the New Eve, the originals, right? This is going to be a print that's on the site, but the original is like, that's the original behind me. I wanted to do something really different. And so part of, trying new techniques and expressing myself and being vulnerable, right? So love and vulnerability, right? Which I'll explain the title, but expressing myself, and using different media. I actually used my blood to create most of these. Yeah, I poked my finger.
I was going to say, how the hell did you get your blood?
I went and I grabbed the big knife and cut. No, just kidding. That's the crazy European coming out now. Yeah, I poked my finger. And, squeezed really hard.
Well, we established earlier you're a nurse, so you know what you're doing.
Yes. We'd all like to think so, right? Right. But she's under two coats of all the inks, and the blood is under 2 coats of under resin, so it's sealed in there, right? And there's no, like, nobody's gonna get be like, okay, oh, there's blood, right? So
I was gonna say, so is that a photo or is that a painting of?
That's a painting, babe. That is a painting. That's a painting.
You are so freaking talented. It looks like a photo of somebody with all that on there, and then you just splattered your blood on her.
Yeah, but that's the cool part about it. And then she's got like the 2-layer resin overlay, and her hair in this one, not of course the prints, but her hair I did in color changing ink, so at night her hair glows, right?
Wow.
And then I used to kind of highlight the love part, right? Love and vulnerability. I use metallic inks, right? So it's a combination of things. And really the significance behind this is that I wanted to demonstrate that the message behind it, right? And so when I take a look at the New Eve series, was something to challenge myself and the expression and, femininity, was when you take a look at love, right? Love can be so powerful, yet most of us fail to be vulnerable with it, right? Because if we are vulnerable, we get hurt, or the possibility of getting hurt. However, to experience love at its true form, you have to be vulnerable to have that love, to experience it fully, no matter the pain, right? And so when you take a look at her, you see this vulnerable portion where in the past you've loved vulnerably and you've gotten hurt and you've gotten ripped open and you've gotten scarred and you've bled. But then on the opposite side, right, when it even with this bleeding and all the harsh things that you go through, when you find that true love, somebody who's going to honor you, somebody you're going to have that wonderful loving relationship with, it's so beautiful and it's so transformative. And so henceforth, the hair changing color, it's so transformative that even though there's a risk to love vulnerably, there's also such beauty when it's done.
Whoa.
Right. And the funny thing is, if I asked you, what do you see, right, you're going to see something different, right? And once again, I asked a girlfriend of mine, I'm like, I sent her that. I was like, what do you see? And she's like, da, 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 da. I'm like, okay, I
Yep.
see that.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
What about this one?
Uh, yeah, that's my other newie. So that's the female of, resist, right? So when you're looking at what it is to, for me, what it is to be a female, right? Like, it's all those hidden things underneath us, right? So we're expected to be a certain way. We're expected, in some ways, to be the nurturer, to be the mother, to be the nurturing female. Yet a lot of times we bleed internally, right? Meaning, like, there's scars behind that, there's sacrifices behind that. And sometimes you have to resist the things that are easy, right, over the things that are within your morality, right, within what's right. And so that's very subjective. What's right for one person, right, might be a lot different than what's right for another person. So you see this female, right, chest exposed, she's bare, right, and then you see this part of this armor, right, but she's still letting everything come through, right, even though it might hurt, even though it might cause pain, she's still living the life, right, she's still in the moment. And just continuing resist, right, so continuing to have that hope, continuing to, no matter what happens, no matter what the world tells you, you're going to keep going.
Okay. I like it. And how about this
Yeah.
one?
What do you see? Wait, I'm going to get you now on autonomy. So
What, this one?
no, on autonomy, the next one. I want to, yeah, this, she's autonomy. And this one is also created with, like the original is created with blood and leafing. So the red behind her I created with red leafing, which is a pain in the butt to work with, and then silver metallics for the neckline, and the like the shield for the eyes. So what do you see? What
I don't know. I mean, that's the thing.
That's okay. That's good.
That's the beauty about art. I don't know. I mean, first of all, I see.
Well, how do you feel?
I don't that I don't even know how to feel. I think, first of all, it's like I'm looking at the art part and the way you capture the features. It's absolutely beautiful, but I don't know. What am I supposed to see? She's submissive, or
Yeah,
to
you could
the
possibly
point where
see that.
to the point where it's damaging to her. I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, that's definitely a possibility. Everybody's going to see a little bit differently. For me,
Right.
creating her was, you have this feminine body that's apparently, obviously she's beautiful, right? She's beautiful. She's sensual. She's soft. She's all of those things that a woman is supposed to be, right? Yet there's an expectation, right? So we're expected to be a certain way, but yet we're choked out to verbalize certain things, right? That whole kind of mentality, I think some of that stems to my background, where you should be seen and not heard as a woman, right? Communism, right? Even that mentality, you as a woman, you should be beautiful, you should be seen but not heard, don't have an opinion, don't talk, right? And then also, blindfolded, right? You see it, but pretend you don't, right? You don't really see it. So, there's so many layers in this, where, some of it, stems back to my roots, right? To being in communism, to being oppressed, to being, to having expectations, even how the world views women, right? And what lens do we view the feminine in, right? Are we supposed to be submissive? Are we supposed to have thoughts and feelings and things but not verbalize them? So there's so many different layers to this that I created her intentionally to leave it open, right? Very open to a lot of different interpretations and feelings, not only from a female perspective, but also from a male perspective, right? So like, a man is going to see things maybe a little bit differently than I would, right? Because of the experiences, right? So there's also an experience component to anything. Like you're like, I don't even know what I'm supposed to feel. Well, that's good. That's
Mhm.
good. Like when have you ever said to yourself, when was the last time you said, I don't know how I feel? It's probably been a while, right? You typically know how you feel, right? You as a man, men are more linear. They know how they feel. They're like, they either love it or hate it. They either yes or no. They're very detailed, and they're very direct, and so to hear you say, well, I don't know how I'm supposed to feel. I don't know. I like it. I like
I know,
I like
I know that I love it. So
it.
all of these pieces I brought up because I love them. So even the
Mhm.
flower that you said people would walk by and probably not even look at twice, I love that. So,
I'm glad.
and speaking of feeling,
Mhm.
this next one makes me smile.
What? Oh, my little happy guy. So, do you remember, he stemmed from, do you remember, that movie Babe? You remember that
Yeah.
movie Babe, the
Yep.
pig? I
Yep.
remember being little and like watching that movie and how cute it was and how dear it was and how he was just like so happy. Like who doesn't love a happy little pig? And so that's where he stemmed from. Just like this happy little guy, happy guy,
He is, he
happy
just,
guy.
what, how can you not want to smile when you look at that happy little pig? I could
Yeah,
see somebody buying that and every time they walk into whatever room it is, just start smiling,
exactly,
you
exactly.
know?
And it's so powerful. Like imagine exactly what you said. You have that in your room and you walk in and just like you're like, oh, that's great. And so, even though this is a print, like even if I wanted to recreate an original, I could create another original, different colors. And so that's the beauty behind these pieces is if somebody wanted something like that, I'd be like, okay, let's do it. What colors do you want? Do you want purple tones? Do you want, what do you want? Do you want more
Right.
orange? So, but yeah, he was just intended to be a happy little guy, just make you feel good no matter what kind of shit show day you're having. Like you just look at him and be like, oh, that's so much better now. Right?
I
That's
love
an
it.
office one, I think. I think that
I,
would be a perfect office.
I seriously, I love that little pig.
Yeah, he's a cutie.
Yep. So, all right, couple more questions and I'm going to
Okay.
let you go because you've already given me over 2 hours.
Oh my God, do you think
Oh,
so? Yeah, has it been that long? Oh,
yep. All right.
anybody who's with us, thanks
Yeah.
for thanks
Well,
for
we're not
yeah.
live. So,
Well, I'm just
yeah.
saying when they're
Yeah.
watching it, if they're at that point,
You know
thanks
what?
for
There's going to
sticking
be a
with
lot
us.
of people that watch from front to back because this is all
That's
interesting.
awesome.
Hey, I'm interested.
All right.
So,
Me
all right,
too. I'm interested too. Let's go.
so what's next for you creatively?
Oh my gosh. You know what? I don't know. I think a long time ago I said I'm going to live my life with intention, right, and not planning. I found that when we when we want to make God laugh, we tell him our plans, right? And so to me, life is more living it intentionally than planning it. In my life, I have found that I have, even though I might not be where I want to be, I have always been where I needed to be, right? And so, yeah, a lot of philosophy today. Jeez, I'm in that kind of a mood apparently, us females. But creatively, I don't know. I'm awaiting my next challenge, and when I get custom requests, there's always something different that challenges me to create the vision somebody has in their head, and I thrive on that. So, it's just gonna depend on what's coming my way, and I'm really interested in pursuing, like I said, doing the big murals and maybe somehow figuring out how to end up in Florida and collaborate and do a huge piece. I think that would be really fun.
Nice. Of course,
Yeah.
Florida would be good this time of year.
Yeah, no kidding.
All right. So is there a
Yeah.
dream? Is there a dream project that you haven't said out loud yet? We want an exclusive right here on Just
Oh,
Talking with Joe Burdick.
geez, a dream project. I think I started the dream project, and so what I haven't verbalized yet is the New Eve series. And this is the beginnings. So this is it's a tiered series. There's, there's the beginning, there's going to be a middle, and there's going to be an end. And the thought process is also kind of like the life I have experienced, where you go from what the images, right, and the art that you're seeing now of a female that's very restricted, that's under, that's, you know, in an environment where it's very suppressive, communism, things like that, and how the transition from that environment is now more open, and then what it looks like when it's full blown, unleashed. So this New Eve, the beginnings, is part of a series, of a collection, and I want to make the next ones big, like I'm talking like 4 or 5 feet. Just some really big pieces. So yeah, I think that's what's gonna be happening next. So like she's 17 by 17 inches, right? Then I have other ones 21 by 21 inches. And I wanna do something I wanna challenge myself on like 4, 5, 6 feet by 6 feet, and really do New Eve a different way.
Nice.
Yeah.
So how can somebody commission you to do something? How do they get in touch with you?
Call me, text me. I have links available, Instagram. I mean, there's so many. Send me a
What's your
carrier pigeon, like whatever.
what's your website name? How do they get in
It's
touch with you?
Can we also include a link? But it's Snjezana's fineartcreations.com. So you have to kind of know how to spell my name, but or on IG it's Snjezana's World, but we'll throw in a link. But anyway, just get a hold of me, call me. Should I get my phone number? I don't know. This is
Well, it'll all be out there. I'll put all this
okay.
your
So
information
good.
on there.
You'll do all that. Hey, this is my first time, you guys. So
Yep.
give me some grace.
Yeah, and
Yeah.
obviously your work is amazing. So I hope people
Thank you.
commission you or order
I
what you
appreciate
have.
you.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's fun. It's fun. I look forward to it, and I hope I can create something new and exciting, and pull whatever you might have in your imagination out into reality, and have you enjoy it for your days to come. That's what it's all about.
Nice.
Yeah.
All right. Well, with that
Mhm.
said, that's going to do
Are
it
we
for this
good? Are we
episode of Just
good?
Talking with Joe Burdick.
Aw.
Huge thank you to my friend that I don't know how to pronounce her name, Snjezana, for sitting down with me today and sharing her story from growing up in Croatia to coming to America.
Yeah. Yeah.
And all these
Yeah.
life experiences that shaped your art. I love this conversation, realizing, you don't just make something that hangs on a wall. It's filled with your history and, your love for what you do. I love that. I really enjoyed this conversation. So make sure anybody that watches, check out what she does and order something. She's an artist, and she needs to be known in Cleveland and New York and Miami. So,
Thank you. Oh my
yeah,
gosh. You're gonna make me cry. Stop
you,
it. Thank
it's somebody that appreciates creativity and culture and honest conversations. And this was a blast for me. I started this, as a way to share interesting stories,
you.
and this is an interesting story. So I'm glad you said yes to it. So I really do appreciate you spending the time. I mean, 2 hours and 13 minutes is a long
Yeah, it's
time.
fun. It went by fast though, didn't it? Like,
Yeah, it did. I really appreciate it. You're talented. I'm jealous, and uh, I really appreciate what you do. So And you need to get yourself a place down there at 78th Street Gallery.
I do. You know, thank you for that suggestion. I am utterly thankful for you having me on here and allowing me to share my story. And I'm grateful. Thank you.
Yeah. And when you get your studio,
Yeah.
have free wine, because I love the free wine at those places.
Of course, you can't. Well, you can't have, you know, anything art without wine and cheese and like hors d'oeuvres and all that kind of
and
stuff.
you
It's
don't
mandatory.
drink. You don't drink.
I don't
right?
drink.
So,
I can live vicariously through everybody else. I'm okay with that.
Yeah. Maybe that's what I need to start wanting to create. A lot of booze. You know, the best musicians in the 60s, they made all that music and art whacked out on drugs and alcohol. Maybe that's what I need. I've never tried drugs. Maybe now's the time.
Are we right?
I'm just kidding. All right. Well, I'm going to let you go. I thank you so much for doing my podcast.
Of course,
I really appreciate it.
All right.
I will talk to you soon.
Bye.
Oh, what is this doing?
I don't know. What are we doing?
I'm going to have to edit that out. I'm going to have to edit that out. My outro is not doing it. So let's try this again.